Okay, then we will continue with our topic. See, from your exam point of view, I'm telling you once again that this particular topic is very important. You have to study this because it will be a fixed question which they will be asking from the coordination compound, that is about the bonding. Okay, so there are only four complexes which you have to study here. So based on that only the question will be asked. So we will start with this. So valence bond theory, which we are going to learn the bonding in the coordination compound. Okay, so to start with this, there are certain assumptions which are given by the valence bond theory. Okay, so let me explain that assumptions to you. So we will start with the assumption. So you can listen to this, and then based on the assumption, we have to work out the bonding of the coordination compound. Okay, so the first assumption is this central metal atom is there, no, or the central metal ion. So to form this complex, what the metal ion does is they will provide the empty orbitals, okay, so that the ligand can come and form the coordinate bond. Okay, so that is the first assumption. The central metal atom or the ion, the central metal atom or the ion which we have, okay, they are the one which will be providing the empty orbitals. Okay, so they will provide the empty orbitals. Now into this empty orbitals the ligand will come and they will form the coordinate bond. Okay, so these empty orbitals will be occupied by ligands. Okay, and how are they going to bind with the metal? Through a coordinate bond. And you know what is a coordinate bond is? Where the full electrons will be donated by the ligand. Metal doesn't have any contribution over there. Okay, the whole electrons will be contributed only by the ligand. Ligands have filled electrons, whereas metal will give them the empty orbital. So it will be like this. Metal is providing the empty orbital. So let me take that as empty orbital of this metal. And this ligand which is there, they will provide the electrons and the bond between the metal and the ligand will take place. Okay, so this type of bonding is called as coordinate bond. Now, how many number of empty orbitals will be made available by the central metal atom? So that depends on the coordination number. Okay, so the number of empty orbitals made available, that depends on the coordination number. I will just write Cn. So that depends on the coordination number. Means how many bond you can see between that metal and the ligand. Based on that, we will make the empty orbitals available. So it depends on the coordination number. For example, if the coordination number is 6, okay, in the compound, if you see that the coordination number is 6, okay, that means they will make 6 empty orbitals available. Okay, so 6 empty orbitals are made available. Okay, so 6 empty orbitals will be made available. And if the coordination number is 4, then 4 empty orbitals will be made available. 4 empty orbitals are made available. Okay, so I hope this point is clear to everyone. What did I say here? For the first assumption is, yeah, students, you write down this assumption now, but then for the exam they will not ask you to write. Okay, they will not ask you in the exam to write down the assumption, but you need to remember this so that you will be able to explain the bonding. But I want you all to write this down. Okay, so that when you see after a few months, when you go through your book, you should be able to understand how the bonding has been explained. Okay, so first assumption, what did I tell you is, the central metal atom or the ion, they will make certain orbitals available. So the empty orbitals will be made available by the metal atom or the ion. And into that empty orbitals, the ligand will be occupying that through a coordinate bond. Okay, because ligand contains the electron pair, and the metal is not going to contribute any electron pair over there. So they will just provide the empty orbital and the ligand will come and occupy into that empty orbital. Okay. So how many are going to be available? How many empty orbitals will be made available by the metal? That depends on how many ligands are going to come. Okay. It's like, suppose if you have any function at home, so based on how many guests is going to come, so many places you have to make available. No. So like that only here, you imagine that metal is the host and the ligands are going to be the guest who will come and occupy that places. Okay, so here if 6 ligands are going to come, that means we have to make 6 empty orbitals available. And if 4 are going to come, then we have to make 4 empty orbitals available for them to come and occupy. Okay, so that is the first rule, first assumption. Now I'll go for the second one. Now when these orbitals are made available, okay, before these are made available, I can say, okay, before these orbitals are made available, they will undergo hybridization. Okay, so these orbitals are like s, p, d and f orbitals you will have. So these orbitals which are made available, they will undergo hybridization. Okay, why are they undergoing hybridization? So that once they are hybridized, the orbitals which will be made available, they will have equivalent length. Okay, so these will be equal number of type of orbitals where the bond length will be similar, because you know s, when they are overlapping, the s bonding will be very small and the p will be little larger and the d will be still larger. So that is the reason we can't have a different type of bonding between the metal and the ligand, and it is not found also. So what is being found is between the metal and the ligand, the type of bonding which is there, it's a same type of bonding. Okay, so that is the reason then we have to assume that these orbitals have mixed together. They have undergone hybridization. So after they have undergone hybridization, they are giving you equivalent hybrid orbitals. Okay, so they are giving us equivalent hybrid orbitals. So into these equivalent hybrid orbitals, the ligand will be coming and occupying. Okay, now these equivalent hybrid orbitals are there, no, they will be oriented at different directions, you know, and they will give you a definite kind of geometry. Okay, so they will provide a definite geometry. So for example, if the coordination number is 4, okay, then the hybridization possible, if the coordination number is 4, then the hybridization possible is either sp3, okay, one more is possible for 4 coordination number, that is dsp2. Okay, so if it is sp3, you have learned this in chemical bonding. If the hybridization is sp3, then the geometry what we expect for them to show is tetrahedral. Okay, so the geometry shown by them is tetrahedral, and if it is dsp2 hybridization, the geometry shown by them is square planar. Okay, so it is found to be square planar. Tetrahedral geometry is like this. I will just to show you. So metal is there in the center. Tetrahedral means 3 ligand, okay, downwards, and 1 ligand will be upward. I will just draw this ligand. Okay, so this is how the tetrahedral geometry is. You have learned this before. Square planar is where you have the metal in the center and it's on the plane. Okay, it's on the plane. So like this will be the geometry. Okay, for me, I don't have a place, so I'm drawing it here. You can draw next to the geometry part. Okay, so here ligand will be on the plane. Okay, just like a sheet of paper, if you take center, you imagine there is a metal and then corners of like that vertex is there, no, each and every vertex will be occupied by the ligand. Then next, if the coordination number is 5, okay, if the coordination number is 5, then the geometry, like the hybridization which we are expecting is sp3d. Okay, so sp3d is the hybridization, and the geometry is going to be trigonal bipyramidal. Trigonal bipyramidal. Then 6-1, okay, if the coordination number is 6, then again 2 hybridizations are expected over here. One is sp3d2 and then d2 sp3 hybridization. So these are the 2 hybridization, and both of them are found to have same geometry, that is octahedral. Okay, so octahedral will be the geometry. Now going for that trigonal bipyramidal. Trigonal bipyramidal will be where metal is in the center. 3 you will have on the plane, 1 up and 1 below. Okay, so 3 ligands you will find on the plane, 1 ligand up and 1 will be below. And octahedral, you know, it's like metal in the center, and then you have on the plane 4 ligands like the sheet of paper. Okay, 4 vertex you will find 4 ligands, and 1 will be up and 1 will be below. Okay, so you will be able to see 8 faces over here, so the name has come as octahedral. And in this trigonal pyramidal bipyramidal geometry, you will see that there is a pyramid which is up, having a trigonal shape. Okay, so it will be having one pyramid up and one pyramid will be below. Okay, yes, I will go for the third assumption now. See, the third one is, you have seen few hybridization. If the d orbitals involved in the hybridization is inner d orbital, okay, if the d orbitals involved in hybridization, if it's an inner d orbital, okay, suppose if it is inner d orbital, then it will be n minus 1 d. Compared to the shell, you have to check out. Suppose if the last shell is 4s, then the inside one will be 3d orbital. Okay, so we write as n minus 1 d orbital. Suppose if it is n minus 1 d orbital, then it is called as inner d orbital or inner orbital complex. Okay, so inner d orbital is involved, then we call them as inner orbital. It is called as inner orbital complex. Okay, and suppose if outer d orbital is involved, if outer d orbital is involved, that will be nd. Okay, that is the from the last shell. Okay, so if nd orbital is involved, then it is called as outer orbital complex. Okay, so you have to just find out whether the complex is an inner orbital complex or outer orbital complex. So that we have to find out just by seeing the d orbital. Okay, so I'll give you one example. For example, now this hybridization was there, no, d2 sp3. So by seeing this only, you can understand that d comes first. That means the inner d has been involved in the hybridization. So if you see that d is coming first when you write the hybridization, that means it's an inner orbital complex. This will be inner orbital complex. If the d comes at the end, like in this case, hybridization sp3d2. So in this sp3d2, you will see that the d comes at the end. So this will belong to outer orbital complex. Okay, so that you need to find out. They will ask you what type of complex it is. So if you see that the inner d orbital is involved in the hybridization, then it is called as inner orbital complex. Okay, this is named as inner orbital complex. If the outer orbital involved in the like the hybridization, then it is called as outer orbital complex. Now there is one more name given for this. Okay, they are also called as low spin and high spin complex. Okay, this inner d orbital complex is also named as, these are called as low spin complex. Okay, so you can either write inner orbital complex or we can write them as low spin complex. Low spin complex. Okay, and these outer d orbital complex, that is outer orbital complex, is named as high spin complex. They are named as high spin complex. I will tell you why they are named as low spin and high spin. See, when the inner d orbital is involved in the hybridization, what happens is the electrons inside them will pair up. Okay, so when the electrons pair up, that you will understand when I'm explaining you the bonding part of it. These electrons inside the d orbital will be paired. So when these electrons are paired, so that time what happens is the number of electrons which will be available will be very less. Okay, so they will be, most of the time they will be diamagnetic in nature, so much spin will not be absorbed by them. Okay, so they are known as low spin complex. And in this case, what happens, high spin complex, the more number of unpaired electrons will be available. So that is the reason why they will be showing more paramagnetic character. This will be showing most of the time diamagnetic character. Okay, because the electrons inside the metal orbital, you will see that they are paired up. So they are also called as low spin complex, and these are named as high spin complex because you will see there are many unpaired electrons. So you have to just mention whether they are inner orbital or low spin or outer orbital or high spin in the exam. Okay, now one more. The last one is, this is not under the assumption, but then this theory is there. No, it's a drawback of this theory, I can say, because they don't tell us what type of ligand is going to approach. The strength of the ligand is not explained in this particular theory. Okay, but then we are assuming here, because from the coming of theory we have understood that these particular ligands are categorized into two types. Okay, so there are strong field ligands and you will find there are weak field ligands. Okay, so we have strong field ligands on one side, and then we are having, right, this side, these are weak field ligands. There are two types of ligands. So now strong field ligand means what? Strong field ligand means if these ligands are going to approach the metal atom, in the metal atom there are electrons which are present. Okay, so strong field ligands, what they will do is when they are coming to the metal, whatever electrons are present in the orbitals of the metal, they will start pairing up. Okay, so that is a function of the strong field ligands. So in the presence of the strong field ligands, electrons will pair up. Okay, in their presence, in the presence of strong field ligand, I'll just write SFL, strong field ligand, electrons pair up. Okay, and in the presence of weak field ligand, if weak field ligands are going to approach, then the electrons will not pair up. Okay, in the presence of weak field ligands, the electrons doesn't pair up. Okay, doesn't pair up. So this you need to remember. Strong field ligand and weak field ligand. And since only 4 complexes are there, so it will be easier for you. I will give you the example. 4 complexes, 4 ligands are there. Okay, in that 2 are strong field ligand and 2 are weak field ligand. But later when I am doing crystal field theory, you will understand why they are categorized as strong field and weak field ligand. For time being, okay, this comes under the drawback of VBT theory. You just remember that there are 2 types of ligand which are present. Okay, so cyanide and ammonia ligands, if you see, they are categorized under strong field ligand. So if whenever these ligands are going to approach the metal atom, you have to always pair up the electrons. Then for the weak field ligand, the example is Cl and F. Okay, that is chloride ion and fluoride ions. They are categorized under weak field ligands. Okay, so only these are the ligands which we are having under strong field and weak field category. Okay, so strong field ligand, even you can imagine in that way. Strong means, see, it's like a strong wind. When the strong breeze comes, how all the things will come and gather together in one place. So like that only the strong field ligand's job is. When these ligands are going to approach to the metal atom, whatever electrons were singly occupied, they will start pairing up. Okay. But when there is weak field ligand, weak field is like just a plain breeze. Okay. As a simple breeze, you can imagine in that way. So when these are going to approach to the metal atom, it doesn't affect them much. Okay. So then there is no pairing which will be taking place in the metal atom. Yes, okay, I will begin then. So remember all that assumptions which I told you just now. So based on the assumptions, we are going to start with the molecules, explaining the bonding in the molecules. So let me start by taking the first complex. So that is, you can write along with me, okay? As I'm doing here, you can also do along with me here. So I'm taking the first complex, that is CONH3 3 plus. Okay. So question will be asked like, on the basis of valence bond theory, explain the hybridization, explain the geometry, magnetic property, and the type of complex. Okay. So here, remember all that points which I have told to you. Okay. So here I will start with the complex. So first thing is, it can be given like this, or they can even give you the name. Okay, so what will be the name of this particular complex now? Cobalt CNH3 6 and then 3 plus. Okay, so if I have to write the name, we need to start with the ligand first. Okay, and there are 6 ammonia ligands, so the name will be hexaamine, and then CO, that is cobalt. Oxidation state of cobalt over here, because ammonia is a neutral ligand, they don't carry any charge. Whatever charge is being carried by the complex, same will be the oxidation state of the cobalt also. Yes, very good. So here cobalt will be 3, oxidation state will be 3, and then since they are carrying a charge, I should end the name with the ion. Okay, so hexaamine cobalt 3 ion will be the name of this particular complex. Okay, now let me start with this. So when you are starting to explain this complex, first you need to identify what is the oxidation state. Okay, so first identify the oxidation state of this. I will take cobalt as X plus ammonia. I told you just now, ammonia doesn't carry any charge, so it's 0, and the whole charge on the complex is plus 3. So that means the oxidation state of cobalt over here is plus 3 itself. Okay, and what is the atomic number of cobalt? These things at least you need to remember. Okay, there are only 2 metal atom and 4 types of ligands are given to you. Okay, total 4 complex are there. In that only 2 metals you will be coming across. One is the cobalt and the other one is nickel. So could you tell me what is the atomic number of cobalt? Cobalt atomic number is, I told you for the 3D series at least you need to remember 21 to 30 elements you should be knowing by heart. Yes, very good. So it is 27, correct, no? So 27 is the atomic number of cobalt. So I will just write the electronic configuration first. Cobalt is 27. So we write in this way argon. Okay. I will write the d orbital inside. I am just writing in the way how they are like arranged. Okay. So 3d, 7 electrons you will find, and then 4s has 2 electrons. So this is how the configuration is. Okay. Now in this particular ion that is in the complex, you can see the oxidation state of the cobalt is plus 3. So if the oxidation is plus 3, that means we have to remove 3 electrons. Plus 3 means what? They have lost 3 electrons. So that means they are in their ion state now. So what I will do here, I will write CO3 plus ion. Okay, so CO3 plus, in that 3 ions will be less. Okay, for you to remember, I'll just write here. Plus 3 means they have lost 3 electrons. So from this particular neutral element, you have to remove 3 electrons. So from where are you going to remove those 3 electrons? You have to start from the outermost shell. Okay, outermost shell is 4s shell. And then once you remove the 2 electrons from the last shell, then you have to come to the inner orbital. So that is the reason why I have arranged it like this. Okay, you are supposed to write 4s2 and then 3d7 according to the configuration. But then when you remove the electron, always we remove the electron from the outermost shell, then we go to the inner shell. Okay, so that is the reason I have written 4s at the end. So once you remove 3 electrons from here, the configuration what we are going to get will be 3d6, and then 4s will become 0 because we are going to remove 3 electrons. So 2 from here and 1 from this side. Okay, so this is the particular configuration of the cobalt ion which is given in the complex. Okay, so once you are done with this, now you are going to distribute this in the orbital. Okay, so forget about this argon because they are not going to participate in the bonding. Okay, because these electrons are inner core electrons, they don't participate. So what we are going to do is we are going to distribute these electrons which are present in the outermost shell. Okay, so I will write orbital. We are going to draw the orbital structure. Okay, so orbitals of CO3 plus ion. Okay, so after writing this argon, I said you can eliminate. Come to the next d orbital. So you know d orbital has total 5 division. Do remember, don't write something else. Okay, because I've seen most of the time students forget how many divisions are there in the d orbital. Okay, so 3d is the orbital, and number of electrons which are present over here is 6, that I will distribute later. After that, come to the next one. Next is 4s. S you know has only one division. Whatever shell it is, S has only one division. Okay, so one compartment I have drawn. After 4s, after s orbital, which is the next orbital which is available? Which is the next orbital available after 4s? Everyone can tell me? Yes, very good, very good. Correct. P, no? SPD is the order. Okay. So after this, I have 4 s orbital available. Okay. So I will draw that 4s here. After 4s, 4p. Sorry, 4p. Okay. And 4p has only 3 division. So I've drawn here. Okay. We are just keeping them empty because these in this orbital the electrons are not occupied. In which the electrons are occupied? The electrons are being occupied in the d orbital. And how many are there? 6 are there. So how to distribute according to the Hund's rule? Remember, we have to put the electrons singly first and then we have to pair them. So d orbitals 5 are there, so I can put one electron each, but total number of electrons available to us is 6, so one will start pairing up. Okay, so this will be the number of electrons arrangement. Okay, now after this what we have to do? So these are the initial adjustment what we are doing before the ligand has approached. Okay, this is initial one when the orbitals are there in their ion state. So when the ligand comes now, when the ligand comes, what type of ligand it is? CONH36. So it's a strong field ligand. So if you have a strong field ligand, what will happen? I told you the electrons will start pairing up. Okay, so I will just write that statement here. If you have a strong field ligand, then these electrons will start pairing up. Okay, so I will write here in the presence of strong field ligand, like ammonia. Okay, here it is ammonia. The electrons pair up. The electrons pair up. Okay, so we have to pair them up now. So when you are pairing them up, see this last electrons I will put over here. Okay, we are just making them as a pair. Okay, so here I will put the second last electrons into the third orbital. Okay, because it's a strong field ligand. So I told you when the strong field ligands approaches the metal, these electrons will start pairing up. Okay, so I will just distribute them in the form of pairs. So next thing after this, I will pair and show you the orbital. See, it will look like this. So initially we had one pair which was already there. Then the last one came over here. Okay. in the second orbital. So we got a pair over here, and then the second last came to the third one. So here we got a pair. Okay. So your electrons started pairing up. After this, you have to see how many orbitals are required for the ligands to come. How many ligands are there? 6 ligands are there, because it is CuONH3 6, no? So 6 ligands are going to come. So that means we have to make use of 6 orbitals, and then we have to hybridize them. Okay. So here I will write this 4s also, and then 4p orbital is also available. These are empty. So what we are doing is, when the ligand comes, these have paired up, and then the 2 orbitals are available in the D, and then 1 orbital we can see in the S, and then 3 orbitals we have in the P. So all these orbitals will undergo hybridization, because total we require is 6. So you see how many ligands are there, so many orbitals, you have to mix them together. So here 2D will take we have to take for hybridization 1s and then 3p. Okay. So the hybridization then will become D2sp3. Okay. So these orbitals will undergo hybridization to give you equivalent hybrid orbitals. Remember the hybridization what you studied. Before, we used to take the orbitals and then we have to mix them together. Once the hybrid orbitals are obtained, then we have to put the negative ion. We were putting the negative ion. Now here, instead of that negative ion, we have the ligands. Okay, so here in this particular orbitals, hybrid orbitals, the ligand will come and occupy. Okay, so I will write that in the next step. So what you have to do is, next step when you are writing, you should write like this. Okay, D2sp3 hybridized orbital of CO3 plus. Okay, so in that, you separate these hybrid orbitals and combine them together and write, and these orbitals which are not involved in the bonding, you write them together. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, here these 3 which are not taking part in the bonding, I am going to write them together. Okay, and these orbitals I'm going to combine together and write. So total there are 6, so I'll just write 6 of them together. Okay, so like this. So these are hybrid orbitals. So you can, below that you can write down 6 D2sp3 hybrid orbitals. Okay, so these are D2sp3 hybrid orbitals of the cobalt ion. So once the hybrid orbitals we have got, into this hybrid orbitals the ligand will come and occupy. Okay, so once this is over, the next step what you have to do is, you have to make them to combine with the ligand. So that, for that you can directly write the complex. Okay, you don't have to write any statement as such. So only the 3 steps are more important. I will tell you which one you can eliminate in the exam and which you have to write down. But for you to explain, I have explained this in many steps. So when you're writing this, you can write at the end, because CONH3 6 cobalt ion was there. Now this cobalt ion is being occupied by the ligand also. So we will directly write the complex. Okay, and then you write these or electrons in the orbitals which are not taking part in the bonding. This you write as it is, and then you take these 6 hybridized orbitals. Into this 6 hybridized orbital, what you are going to do is, you are going to put 2 electrons of the ligand. I will change this color over here just so that you will understand. Okay, so here 2 electrons, 2 pairs of electrons will be brought by the ligand. NH3, no? So NH3 has 2 electrons on them. So 2 electrons, 1 ligand can bring. It's a monodentate ligand. So here these electrons will be occupied by the ligand. So I can write here 6 D2sp3 hybrid orbitals are occupied by 6 pairs of NH3 ligands. 6 pairs of NH3 ligands. Okay, so this is the hybridization part. At the end, you have to write few points. At the end, you can just mention what is the hybridization, what is the magnetic property and all that. See here, I will write the hybridization. Hybridization is D2sp3. Then after that we saw 6 ligands are being occupied. So if it is D2sp3, the geometry which they are going to have, D2sp3 is, you can go back and check there. Okay, for D2sp3 what I have given is octahedral. So the geometry is octahedral. Okay, and then What are the type of complex? What type of complex it is? So type of complex, you can see the d orbitals are being occupied. The inside d orbitals of the cobalt ion has been occupied. So we can call them as inner orbital complex. Okay, so these are called as orbital, inner orbital complex, inner orbital complex or low spin complex. Low spin complex. Okay. Now one more last thing, students, you have to tell the magnetic property also. Okay. So the last thing is about the magnetic property. So that you will understand by seeing the metals electrons. Okay. Here you can see electrons are paired up. So if the electrons are paired up, then they are, yes, diamagnetic. If you find single electrons, then they will be paramagnetic. So that will be the last property. Okay, magnetic property. You have to see the metal, don't see the ligand, because ligand electrons will be always paired only, because they are going to get two electrons each. You have to check for the metal. Okay, so in the metal you can see electrons are paired. So that means it is going to be diamagnetic. Okay, so this is the last thing which we need to mention. Yes, now you can write it down. Yes, correct. For the complex with strong field ligands, we can't apply the Hund's rule because they are going against the Hund's rule. Correct. Only for the weak field ligands. And then all this occupying is there, no? All that is according to the Pauli's exclusion principle. Okay, and for weak field ligands, only there is like exception, strong field and weak field. Weak field, we can see that the Hund's rule is been obeyed, but whereas for the strong field ligands, we are going against the Hund's rule.